Heba, as we know, you're an astro-metaphysical report reader, so I'm very excited to see what you have to say about destiny. So is it written in the stars, as they say, or do we always have a choice? Do we have always a chance to change things?
I've done a little research on the word destiny, and actually it came up in many languages, which is really interesting because I didn't know that. But in, like, for instance, Latin and ancient Greek, if you break it down, you get the star, stene. So the word star, okay, the STA, it actually comes from stene, which is a Latin word, and it means to stand. So it actually means to stand, standing firm or sitting down. And in Sanskrit as well, the word stene or star means avastan histati, meaning to stand. So it actually literally means to stand still. And the prefix de, which is de, also comes from stene, meaning down or down from. So if you think about this suggests a stepping down, meaning deep-rooted state of being and existing without making a move. So if you were to interpret that word, you could see it as meaning standing still at the bottom. Who stands still at the bottom? Think about that. It's someone who is destined. So someone who is waiting for their fate or waiting for things to eventuate in their lives, right? Because if you were to make changes in your life, would you stand still or would you take action?
Yeah, like many people who believe in destiny, they also think whatever happens to them, they blame it on God. Like if someone died, it's God's fault. If they lost their job, it's God's fault.
Yeah.
So they're just blaming someone, a higher power, because they just think everything is out of their hands and they're powerless, actually, but that's not true.
Yeah. And because the reason for that is because they view existence through the lens of the ego.
Yeah.
And so then existence will appear as predetermined. So, and so all these external forces and events, they're all predetermined for you. Okay. But if one revisits the reality from a higher energetic vantage point, they recognize that they hold the pen. We hold the pen, creating our destiny using our inner library of wisdom. But you've got to have that inner library of wisdom. It has to be a deep-rooted belief within you. So this is the fundamental difference between those who actively rewrite and reevaluate their story and those who believe their path is dictated by forces beyond their control, accessible only through externally validated measures. So destiny and free will are a matter of viewpoint, actually, and that viewpoint reflects into one's reality.
If you want to change them, you really want to change how you feel about some things, and that can be really overwhelming. But the fact that we have the power to change something undesirable, or an outcome or a reaction to something, to a specific pattern, this can give us a lot of hope and power, actually, to write down what we need to manifest or what we need to see in our lives, rather than just give in to what's available. Like, that's available for me in my life. That's my life.
And it becomes very limited, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I remember a famous quote: "You can be the master of the stars, or surrender and let the stars rule your life." And these stars are within us. There is a modern belief that we're not doers, that life simply happens to us. So it's a carefully crafted mindset, actually, that I strongly believe is designed to take away our free will, autonomy, and individuality. Because they, especially done through religion, because it tries to convince the masses, that there is a greater force responsible for our lives, and so people passively accept whatever comes their way. I think it's really important to understand how time works and think of time differently. Think of time as a frequency, because time is not linear. So if we can understand that time is a moving, oscillating wave or a standing scalar wave, either way, we can come to realize that time is not fixed. If time is not fixed, that means by default, fate cannot be fixed, because you can change frequency in every given moment in time, because time is a frequency. So the time wave we encounter is determined by the frequency of our actions, our thoughts, our choices, our cause, and everything that we choose in any specific moment leads to a specific outcome. This follows that there is a principle of cause and effect. So what you do now affects the next moment in your life. So what I'll say that I want to elaborate on this further, but for now I'll say that we are predetermined only if our view of time is fixed.
Okay.
When your view of time is not fixed, then we are free, meaning we self-govern, we co-create the reality we want and that we live in, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I feel. I feel like it's all connected to time. And since time is a moving scalar wave, it's a frequency, then you can move time, you can bend time.
So you mean about future time? Like there's no fixed future? There's no fixed future time?
No, because if your future is fixed, that implies that time is fixed.
That's true.
And time doesn't stand still. Time is affected by cause and effect. So it follows the principle of cause and effect. So what you do now determines what will happen in the next moment in your life.
Yeah.
Particular time, because
that brings up a question. Maybe it's a little bit outside of the, but what do you think about like past time? Do you think whatever happened is fixed in time in the past?
It becomes a frequency. If you were to remember what happened to you, you can remember it, but there's so many different versions of that remembrance.
Because of the future probabilities, like there were a lot of probabilities.
Yeah, okay, so I'll give you an example. When you were 5, not 5, that's a bit too early. Let's say 10. When you were 10, okay, and you can have that ability to recall memories. Mm-hmm. You go back to when you were, say, 3 years old, and you're trying to dig up a certain memory from when you were 3, okay, at the age of 10. So you're 10, and you're trying to go back into time to remember an event that took place when you were 3. Okay, you bring up the memory in a specific way. If I were someone to ask you to write about it, you may write a certain script. It may be fueled with certain emotions and feelings and things like that. And you close that book, you write it in a book, close that book, put it away. Come back 10 years later when you're 20. Go back to that same memory, okay? Dig up that same, dig up the memory, try to recall the memory, and put feelings and emotions as best as you can recall it into that and see what comes up. You will have two completely different versions of that event. Why? Because the you at 10 recalled a certain version of the event. The you at 20 has a completely different perspective of life, in life.
Wow.
And that's how I view it. These things are very subjective. Like, yes, sure, there is an event that took place and that event's not going to change. Like if your parents divorced in 1998 or whatever, you're going to recall that time when they did. It doesn't matter what age, because that's a definite event that happened. But most of the time, events are not so black and white like that. You can recall something at one time as being a negative thing. Many years down the track, you recall that event, but it doesn't affect you anymore.
Okay. So you're talking about the change that happens inside that makes us see things differently.
Yeah.
Rather than an actual event happening, which is actually fixed in the past.
Yes, because I think time is connected to frequency. Time is frequency.
Yeah.
And it's
so
not
that's
fixed.
How you actually also heal your past, your child self, say, or you just heal now and then you see it differently. So that past version of you just heals in the process.
Yeah, well, say for example, 10 years ago, you held a negative view about yourself, that you were a victim. Okay, what's going to happen the next minute that you think that thought? You're going to manifest something in your life that's going to try and teach you that you're not victim, right? Fast forward 10 years later, in the current situation now, if your frequency is expanded, if you raised your frequency and worked on that victim mentality and you overcame most of it, all of it, then you're not going to see those events as being, when you perceived yourself as a victim anymore. That's not going to be there. Maybe a different view of yourself is going to be there. And that will determine the next event in your life and what you're going to bring into your life. So we're always creating and co-creating from our minds. And what's happening in your minds is thoughts. And the quality of your thought will determine the next thing that will happen in your life. That's how I view it. So it's not tied to time. It's not tied to fate. It's tied to how you think and what you do and what you say and how you see yourself in any given point in time. And then it determines the next thing that happens. So if you look at it that way, then no, we're not predestined because we're always creating and co-creating, but you've got to understand the nature of the game. Otherwise, you'll fall into the trap. Yeah. You'll be always predestined because you're not thinking anything of it. You're just moving how you see life moving. Sometimes you're allowing yourself to be a byproduct of the external circumstances. Therefore, you're not seeking any changes and you just allow things to happen to you rather than for you. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. So usually the unpleasant things are what we call a karma. And that's like things present in our template from maybe many lifetimes ago that we don't know of. So it's either we choose to heal those things so that we see a change in our life, or we just say that's what's available for me and I'll let it heal over a course of many lifetimes to come. So this brings us to the question about the template. So what do you have to share with us about that template? How does one really tap into it, see what it holds, how it can create change in our life so that we can, if it's a template that's creating the hologram through our thoughts and actions. So how is change created through the template?
Well, so what template are you referring to? You're talking about
the inner template, which reflects our hologram, our life.
I think we determine our own templates, because if your last thought, I would like more lessons on learning how to be patient, for example, have a very healthy level of perseverance in life, okay, you're going to be given a template to support that happening for you, if that's your deepest desire. But there's a lot of ways to look at a template. So, maybe we can explore that later if we have some time. I'll give you a few examples to understand it better. But it's very interesting.
If we're born into a name, a family, we're born into a specific circumstance. So how much power do we actually have? Do we actually have we actually chosen these things? Because some people think they were thrown into a specific lifetime in a specific body. Maybe the body is sick. Maybe they don't like their name or their family.
That happens a lot.
Had the power to actually choose that? Is that their responsibility instead of blaming a higher power?
Yeah. Well, it's a big one. But
yeah.
Well, I'm going to take a bold step here and elevate the discussion to something more like purposeful and alive, which I believe the real reason we're here. You could say that we are holographic projections of our master template. So, as you know, if you're into the freedom teachings, which I know you are, but I'm talking to our listeners, if you are into the freedom teaching, it's a good place to learn about all these things. It gives you a really wider perspective on existence and life and creation and all that. But we have a master template and it's stationed in primal light and sound fields. So think of this template as your master copy. So right now you're sitting here, that's some copy of your master copy that's sitting down here. And so your master copy is the original, but projects itself into this world that we view it as a holographic copy or holographic existence. Your master template is actually fully aware of where it's manifesting, all its projections, okay? How it does it is it seeks a particular frequency. So, like I said before, if your frequency, you're wanting to become a better person, if your frequency is to assist in the spiritual mission of humanity's evolution, if your particular frequency, which comes from a deep desire for change, if that were, whatever that was, there's millions of different desires and frequencies that you could be desiring, but the particular frequency that you desire becomes where you will be positioned to fulfill your intended purpose. So like I said, whether to assist in evolution or something else entirely. There is an original intention for everything. Everything is by intention. And this will completely debunk the theory of fate and destiny, because if you're fated and destined, that means someone else is playing the game for you and moving you however they feel and they think that you should be moving, or what you should be doing, or what you should be saying in every moment in time. That means there's no free will. But did original creation, did Source intend for that? Or is that how we see it from where we stand? Because original higher template, you can call it your most evolved version of you, has intended for something, and in doing so, it found copies of itself manifest into this holographic play. I call it a play because from a higher viewpoint, there's no souls lost. It's not a loss if I say a soul took birth and got itself hurt and died and left, because energy doesn't die. As you know, it only transforms. Yeah? So there is no loss. There's only totality, and nothing becomes irrelevant, or nothing truly is annihilated or perishes. We don't vanish. We experience suffering. Suffering is different. It comes from an over-identification with the physical body, forgetting who we truly are in the spirit. So these ego-driven constructs, they're not natural. They're neither natural nor organic. They're artificial creations of the human mind. If we strip those constructs along with all other human-made frameworks, what will remain is pure energy, constantly manifesting and demanifesting, moving in like an eternal ebb and flow. So you could call it a cosmic play, an ongoing dance of existence. But since the ego underlays and overlays exist, which are nothing more than like just epigenetic constructs encoded in the DNA, then you can say we could be severely disadvantaged by this game. So some call it like a sick game, like, seriously, I don't have a choice. So why am I here? Who's playing that game? Who's playing me here? So, but we have to understand beyond the egoic construct, we have to understand that the original intention is actually evolution. It's always evolution, always is, always will be. We manifest here to help others evolve. And once we evolve, and the cycle continues back and to source. And when the ego layers insert themselves into our hologram, then we are disadvantaged because we can come here and suffer, and then we become victims. So we come here, and instead of experiencing full joy, which is the original intention, we take birth suits that are sometimes already ailed, disabled, sick, etc. So we suffer as a consequence. From the original template point of view, also known as your Christos avatar, there is no suffering in that state, so it makes no difference where one takes birth. So if, for instance, your original intention is to help those who are disadvantaged, you may project yourself or part of your consciousness into a reality field where people experience homelessness, or even embody that experience yourself, so that you can relate to that feeling. If your intention is to become a spiritual teacher, then you most inevitably have to endure the absence of a spiritual connection at some point in your life, so that you can appreciate spiritual connection, and so that you can teach spirituality with the intention of helping others recognize it within themselves. But if we remove the ego, these lessons will no longer be necessary, right? There would be so there'd be no veiling, no masking, no masking of the eyes, no masking of the heart. You could see right through people, their intentions, as it were. Scary thought, isn't it? Imagine seeing what everyone's thinking.
Actually, maybe it's less scary than not seeing. What do you think?
Really?
Yeah. Because then you would just know. You would just know who to talk to, who to stay away from. You wouldn't like.
I guess that's.
There would be things that you could have avoided.
Yeah, but is it fun?
Fun? Well, maybe both scenarios aren't really fun.
Yeah. I get
here on Earth, maybe in another place where everyone is a nice person and you could see what they're all about. Maybe it would be really beautiful.
Yeah, but then you see it on the flip side. Just suppose somebody is working on themselves.
Yeah.
But everyone can see through them and no one wants to give them a chance to better themselves. Then they're cut off from the experience of evolution, right? So there's a reason why people come into your hologram. It's either to help them, to help you, or to help each other. There's always a reason. And that's the beauty of it, is not entirely knowing. In my opinion, you could be, you're right and I'm right. That's just points of view, yeah? But in my subjective experience, I would rather not know, learn what I have to learn, teach what I have to teach, have that experiential exchange, and then see what happens. And, maybe I'm too, too mystical or whatever, but I think it's beneficial if most of the time we don't really know 100%. I think there is a beauty in that. And the beauty lies in the mystery of life, and life is mystery. So that is actually a beautiful thing, because we always have a position. Our Christos avatar is always in a position to see things as they truly are. But the hologram, with the egoic constructs, there's a little bit of mysticism there, and it doesn't hurt to have that. So
That's true.
I think that's
maybe it's also safer to have that. Like, it's safer not to know some things. It's safer for people not to know everything that's going on in your inner world.
yeah.
So if you're going to do a mass, or you're still healing, or you're going and everyone could see that, maybe that wouldn't benefit anyone.
Yeah. So when souls are evolving, and there is that, you meet somebody who is evolving and you want to evolve as well, there is a benefit in that exchange. There's certain dynamics that take place that fortify your experience, and it becomes a very, very important experience, because you can feel you shifted through that experience. Sometimes we meet people who we don't really learn, we don't have any exchange. It's just like a bit of bluntness, like there's no real value in meeting them. But most of the time you can actually take something from every experience. So yeah, I mean, in my personal perspective, doesn't necessarily reflect the freedom teaching viewpoint, by the way. Without a clear intention, so if you don't have a clear intention, a soul will be placed in an environment that best matches its frequency and its base pulse rhythm. So if you don't have a clear intention of what you want in life, you will be put where you best match the frequency. So if someone vibrates at a lower frequency, they may be born into circumstances where they must experience lower frequency realities, potentially as a way to appreciate, I guess, and seek a more fulfilling way of living. So in this sense, birth is determined by your thoughts, by your DNA code, and visions and desires at the time of incarnation. These things, 3. So DNA, vision, and I forgot the third, thought patterns. So these things will determine your birth. And I'll give you an example. So consider a soul that once lived as let's just take an example of a serial killer who took many souls, innocent lives in previous incarnations. This person, this being, at some level identified with energies of revenge, hatred, disconnection from the heart. So what do you think the next birth may look like? I'm just asking an open-ended question, because I don't know, but I can speculate.
You could say that he's gonna have a lot of karma, maybe. He's not gonna have a very pleasant life, maybe.
Yeah. Would it be fair to take birth in amazing circumstances, amazing conditions, have money, have status, have maybe
if he doesn't want to change, maybe he will have a high status money, but he'll still have a really big ego. He'll still be a bad person inside, and he's just not going to learn anything in that life. Maybe he doesn't learn yet. So
yeah, well, so his own ego, his own conscience.
He's still stuck in the same pattern.
I think someone like that would probably incarnate into a chaotic, war-torn reality.
Maybe it will just mirror what he has inside, like killing and.
Yeah, and they either have to continue being angry and upset and revengeful and all these things, or they'll be presented with an opportunity to experience compassion and evolve into a more loving, awakened being. So it all depends on DNA, your vision, your desires, deep desires, and thoughts at the time of incarnation. Did he really want to, did he really or she desire to learn the lessons? Then, you know, you're born into a place of chaos, but be presented with experience of compassion so you can see it, recognize it, and then understand what you are, you know.
Like maybe he would be born in the house of a really, really compassionate parents, really loving parents, so he's just gonna learn from them. And maybe he was he was a killer because he had a really hard life, and like in the other life he's gonna choose something better so he can be a better person.
Yeah, or he may face even harsher lessons and karmic predispositions, pushing him or her to know their original state of love, because that's our original state. All of us, no exception, because we're all born from love. I know it's hard to look at a serial killer and think they've got love in their hearts, but they do. They're born from love, because we're all born from source. Source is love. We can't be anything other than love. And hate,
see it as a fault in his, like maybe he's sick, like if someone's sick, he's just having a symptom of that sickness.
Yeah,
when it's he's gonna be a good loving person again.
Yeah. So what's hate? It's nothing but fear, absence of love, not loving thyself. Usually, you ask me about alignments or stars and metaphysical readings and stuff like that. I always, when I do those readings, I never say it's a fixed fate. Unlike other maybe astrologers and people who do the same work, they tend to give the message that it's all fixed. There's no change. Like, you're going to get married this time and that's it. You don't have a choice or you're going to have this many kids, or you're going to be like, I don't know, you're going to be losing money and wealth, and you're not going to have stability. You're going to move around a lot and not going to have a stable place to stay or whatever. You know, all these things are variables. They all come from your mind, your thoughts, your DNA, and your vision and deep desires. If your desire is to change that, you're going to be presented with opportunities to change it. So it's not a fixed fate. That's what I always say to people. It's not a fixed fate. It's actually a symbolic representation of your DNA encoding to a certain extent. So how amazing is that? What's in your DNA coding is written in the stars.
Wow, that's beautiful. It's also in your hands, so it's not like some higher power writing stuff for you. It's all whatever you have in your being. That's what's being presented for you. That's nice.
Yeah, and we enter through the portals, meaning that our DNA carries an imprint of the celestial maps at birth. And you chose to come at that moment in time. You chose these parents. You chose your parents. So everything's chosen by you. You can maybe leave 95% chosen by you. Maybe 5% is something that's fixed, immovable. Just like we have in astrology, we have movable signs and immovable signs. I sort of see life like that. We do have massive opportunity to rewrite our fate, not fate, life. But there's a small amount of fate. I don't call it fate. I sort of call it like maybe some events that are fixed just because you wanted those on a soul level. So ultimately, it all comes from you. The map of the stars is not a predetermined destiny. It's only a guide, a tool to navigate. You know how you have a map and you're driving and you just want to explore different places and stuff? It's only a tool to navigate what's out there or what's in there, the intricacies of life, if you like. And what's the point? The point is to evolve through those, to evolve through them. So if someone embraces this passionate energy without discernment or proper communication, what happens? They suffer. The astrological chart is actually serves not as a rigid script. So some people have a lot of passionate energy and stuff. But if you don't use that passionate energy in a proper way, what happens? So I'm just giving you an example. Look at someone's chart and they have a lot of passionate energy, like a strong Venetian, with other conjunctions. But just suppose someone's got very passionate energy. If you misuse it, it's going to land you somewhere, somewhere different to, say you use it the proper way with proper discernment, proper communication. One could lead to suffering, one could lead to your emancipation and evolution. So the astrological chart serves not as a rigid script, but as a guiding tool. Helps the soul to balance certain energies so it can align more deeply with our spiritual essence.
Yeah. So it's like sensitivity. Say if someone is sensitive, they could use that sensitivity to be really touchy, or they could use it to feel into things that matter a lot more. So it's like, as they say, it's got a double face thing.
Yeah.
You use whichever one that's better for you.
Everything's double face, triple face. There's so many options. Like, we have endless options.
Mm-hmm.
We do. It's just we're very limited. We are conditioned to believe we're limited. Just like some people are conditioned by astrology to believe everything is absolutely determined. It's a fixed fate, instead of looking at it as a way or as a framework to empower themselves, to understand themselves, to refine their choices and consciously evolve beyond those limiting viewpoints and tendencies. So they use it, but they use it to stay stuck because they don't understand their purpose. And so these are the same people that believe in fate. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it did. And there's something I really like. They say in the freedom teachings, it's that if I can see you right now, it means you're already a part of my template or my hologram. So each person you see really matters, because they're, in the end, they're a part of what you're projecting out.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
that's so true.
It makes every little particle, like maybe if you're sitting and then the wind comes up, and then or like something lands on your hand, or it's just you're seeing it because it's like you're looking at a part of yourself that just came from inside.
Yeah.
So I think it's really beautiful. It makes you think that everything is really important. You're just gonna take these things with you as memories, maybe. But at one point, they were projections from your own internal world. So it makes things really not separate from you.
Yes, it makes you remember that you're not separate from everything else.
Also, what about life as a hologram that you're creating with your thoughts and actions? To what extent do thoughts and actions really influence? I've noticed patterns. If you worry about something now, you might see it happening later. Or if you do something now, you might see yourself doing it later, until if it's negative and you choose to change it, you might choose to like break the cycle. If something always upsets you, the next time you may choose to say, I'm not gonna get upset about this again. So it's like
I wish it was that easy.
Yeah,
I wish it was that easy.
So it's like
I've been trying all my life.
For lifetimes, maybe.
Yeah.
So to what extent and how, if it's really this hard, what can you say for our viewers how can they really try to anchor a change that they want to see in their life, in their hologram?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I had a definite answer, but I can only share what I think. But we'll start with, I always ask myself, what would be the purpose and the reason for having a rigid timeline? Just to follow a predestined path? Why? Why would there be such a game to simply follow a predestined path? You know, I don't see a purpose for predestination. So there's a perspective I resonate with, that, as I said before, time cycles are frequency bands. They do exist as fixed timestamps carrying specific time waves or frequency waves, like radio stations, each running its own sequence. But these waves hold distinct characteristics that match their own energetic frequency. So when we evolve, we align with the timeline that matches the frequency. We don't shift through time. We become something we perceive differently from where we stand as our frequency changes. Our DNA actually holds the mathematical codes that link us to various points in time. So you can now shift your perspective, shift your frequency, and you'll be in a completely different place. Because we actually carry within our bodies the entire map of the universe, the whole map. So it's not external. We think it's external, but it's all within. So when we enter harmonic universe, we do so through adjusting a vibrational and oscillation pattern. And we enter into a harmonic universe through a time vector. And many of those time vectors exist, and our bodies contain these corresponding coordinates. You know, so like a satellite, like you've got your coordinates, you enter the codes to align with a specific, time and place, and then you just allow your birth to take place in that particular place. So, but there's something that happened, something quite tragic. We became metatronically coded. So our DNA became metatronically coded, which means we started to manifest into a false timeline, a metatronically encoded grid. And that's by design. And that's in order to keep us subjugated and under their dominance, the full and angelic dominance. So the entire process actually is a reflection of the principle, the cosmic principle of as above, so below. And, this happens through free will. It all happens through free will. So when we step down into the hologram, we're deciding on where we want to be based on that frequency adjustment. So you make that frequency adjustment and voila, you're there. That's simple. That's how I understand it anyway. And karma is understood as cause and effect, sometimes perceived as a form of like a cosmic revenge or retribution or a consequence for doing the wrong things. This sort of notion does hold some truth, some energetic truth, but it's not entirely accurate because the key distinction here is no external force can punish you. We actually punish ourselves. We attract intricate lessons guiding us toward alignment with our true nature or not. And if we're not, we suffer. So we actually create the lessons and we create the outcome that comes from a deep-seated, deep-rooted desire within. That's why certain people enter a holographic experience. Sometimes they appear because we need them and sometimes because they need us. So everything operates based on those pulse rhythms and they can be adjusted, just like a radio. You can adjust your energetic frequency. That determines your what manifests into your reality. Now consider if someone has lived a life steeped in cruelty, someone's very cruel, they're more likely to attract a loving presence, or are they more likely to attract someone who mirrors their own action, forcing them to see life and to witness and reflect on their behavior? So that's the question we could ask, is what would they manifest? Certainly one could manifest a loving soul, but if that kindness is mistreated again, then the karmic cycle will just continue, accumulating until clarity arises and they make the necessary shift toward their true encryption, which is love. So love is original encryption, and the further we stray away from this essence, the more life presents lessons in love, sometimes harsh ones, disguised as like loss of somebody, a child or a parent or someone we love, pain, upheaval, something that's really harsh. Because if someone's not waking up, if they've had many incarnations where they haven't been able to wake up, they're going to get a strong lesson. It's going to hit hard. So even astrology actually mirrors this dynamic. The chart is a direct manifestation of the lessons we need. Does that mean the universe is cruel? Because, some people say the universe is cruel, God is cruel. Why am I being punished? But you have to understand that it's not just this life right now, what you're thinking right now. It's a accumulation. It's I don't see it as a universe being cruel. I see it as everything's mobilized from within you, from within us. And we're not just individuals, because that's the illusion of separation that we fall in. We are actually many little tiny universes. We have tiny universes with huge views, and sometimes we're limited and suppressed to like nothingness. So we have to remember that we have at the highest level of existence, we have a part of our master copy there. And some don't come back, because why would you come back after you've reached complete union with the divine, loving God? The answer lies in free will. Some souls choose to return out of compassion, driven by a greater force or a greater desire to help themselves, to help other people. And some just don't want that. So everything's mobilized from within. This is why aspects of ourselves actually manifest in the physical form to aid in the collective evolution. So some of us come here without karma. We just come here to help people see who they are and help other souls evolve back to source. But those that come with karma, they actually can heal the karma. 100% they can heal karma. The simple answer to, how can we heal karma is to return to love. To return to love, because that's the soul encryption. Activate our torrent seed, our divine seed, and consciously embody the 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. So I once read a quote that just came to mind, is to serve one is to serve all, and the one is you. So if you're serving yourself and you're evolving yourself, then you're serving the collective. To heal yourself is to heal the collective, because everyone is you and you are in everyone, and there is no separation. There's only an illusion of division, and in truth we forget, but we're expressions of the same energy. It's the only distinction is our experiences and how we define our experiences. So
I like something. It's if your consciousness isn't in someone else's body, it doesn't mean they're separate from you. So if you take care of them, if you show them compassion, it's the same as if you would have received it from someone. It's the same joy they feel as if, like, if you need some help and you help and someone helps you.
Yes.
That comfort you feel, it's the same one that someone else is gonna feel. So it's like you're helping yourself.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful too?
Yeah, it is.
And people ask like all the time, it's like, can we heal karma? No, karma can't be healed. You come with the karma, that's it. You have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. If you realize what your karma is, like just observe your life and the patterns that emerge from your daily life. Like, what are you seeing every day emerge in your daily life? What is it? You know, and then reflect on those. Go within, reflect on those. Where is it coming from? Maybe you have some karma attached to that thing that you need to learn the lesson to overcome that karma, the patterns of suffering that are emerging from you having that karma. And so it sends these patterns start to send ripples of transformation through your life in signals, in different things that start to manifest. And then it turns into hard lessons at the end. If you insist on not listening, not seeing it, it becomes harsh lessons. It keeps reminding you until you wake up and start embodying love and aligning with love frequency. And that's what we call an awakening. This should be the awakening, is awakening to our true encryption is love. Not just awakening to what's going on in the world, because there's many awakened souls right now. They call themselves awakened, but they're only awakened to the first veil, which is the veil of politics or who's running what and negative aliens. And what's the point being always encoded to that frequency and not being able to make something out of it? Like, has it transformed you in any way? Has it aligned you more with frequency of love? Or are you full of hate and revenge? And, you know, what are these experiences teaching you? It becomes your karma if you insist to hold a negative frequency all the time, because your view of the world is that of victim, or we're victims, where, you know, we're mistreated, or, you know, you got to change, you got to transform the way you think and align more and more with the frequency of love. And that's how we overcome karma. So you asked about the inner template, which is the structure, which is the template or a structure that creates a holographic experience. Remember that everything's mobilized from within. So your template is your own creation, and then it becomes what manifests as a holographic experience. The original template, if we look at it from the freedom teaching perspective, is composed of 12 Kathara points. So it's a very tangible structure, interconnected with our oxytonal lines and inner grid works of consciousness. They're all connected. And it's through intention that this template projects images of itself, forming the hologram. Isn't that beautiful? It's like standing in front of the mirror, you see the life presented in front of you based on how you are inside. So
you can know what's outside if you just inside, if you just look at your life.
Yeah, and when something keeps showing up in your life, go within your own Kathara template.
Say if you know a person, that maybe annoys you, or there's something you don't like in them, it's definitely either in you, or it's something you really try to avoid having in you, or maybe you used to be that person in a past life and you just don't like yourself in that way.
Or so maybe they're really annoying too.
Maybe, yeah, it could be.
Just joking. That's possible. You can't exclude.
Yeah, it is. Everything is possible.
But yeah, I understand. You're right. It's
like if it's really triggering, not just annoyance. I mean, it's something that's really triggering in your life.
Yeah, most people would say my ex was really annoying. It wasn't me. It was him. It was her.
Maybe.
So yes, I mean yes and no. So when we you're right though. We see these triggers, but they're trying to tell us something. And the more our frequency oscillates, the more we expand, evolve. The more we expand our frequency, the more we evolve past the limitations. And these limitations have something to do with how we think. So we're just trying to interpret the world from a very limited viewpoint, from an ego viewpoint. Mm-hmm. We all know that, like vibration, for instance, it's in its essence, it's sound. Okay, it's contractual. It's the feminine principle, the force that's responsible for solidification. So you said something about the hologram. That's how we come here. We go through vibration, oscillation, and we come here and we go back to source. So without these dynamics, without contraction and expansion, the incarnation here would be impossible. And there must be a field of balance where energies expand and contract within specific Merkaba structures, forming the body template. So that will allow us to step down and take birth in a physical form. But are we put through these expansion contraction cycles without consenting to it? No, because our frequency is putting us there. We can't manifest without oscillation and vibration. So there's a dynamic here, an interplay, playing with us like with electromagnetic particles and antiparticles. And you can call it the masculine, which is light, the feminine, which is sound. And so that interplay is what makes us come here, I guess, and then leave at a specific time, you know. So at the end of the day, yes, we all are mobilized by our inner self. We all determine what we're going to do, where we're going, when we're born, things like that. But like I said, I like to keep about 5% also to that unknown. I don't want to call it destiny. I don't believe in destiny, but I feel like there isn't a small, very small percentage that's unknown that may be fixed for us. I don't know. What do you think? Is that something that like may resonate with you, or
that there are things that can't be fixed in our template?
I think we have the ability to change, like I said, maybe 95%, but I think there's an element of fixation.
Maybe it all depends on how much light one holds. Like maybe there's a certain threshold where you don't have the ability to integrate something, and you just need it.
Yeah.
In a future lifetime, maybe you're gonna, but maybe not now, because maybe you still have to go through that, which you can't fix for evolutionary purposes. Or maybe there's just like a threshold, and if there's something we can't fix, maybe that we can call this like a dark space.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, so maybe there's like a threshold of light that we can hold in our body, and we can't just pass to 5% to heal that or to overcome it. Maybe if we could hold more light, maybe we can. But especially here on our planet, maybe there's a certain limitation to how much we actually can.
I feel like we have a small limitation, and that's connected to a disadvantage of being here in a matrix that we're not organic. We're not meant to be in this matrix. We're not, if we depends on how you see it. So I see my consciousness, my individuated consciousness, as a stepping down from source and coming into this holographic projection, holographic reality, as it were. And trying my best to do the things that I'm here to do, to fulfill my purpose and evolve myself and help other people and that sort of thing. Now, I feel there is a small limitation to how much I can do. And I feel that's superimposed on us. So that's why I say we have 95%, you know, give or take. Like, I'm not saying 95, definitely not 96, not 94. Like, I'm saying around about that. There is definitely a lot of freedom. We definitely have ownership of the pen to write our own life, but there is a small percentage of rigidity, and that's superimposed through epigenetic underlays and overlays. That's what we call the ego. So there's some ego overlays that we just cannot transmute at this time because we just simply don't have the frequency to do that. Mm-hmm. So then that, if you want to call it, then that becomes fate. You can call it fate or destiny or whatever. I just call it the beyond my limits.
Beyond my limits. Or maybe it's the...
Right now. That doesn't, I am beyond. I feel like if we're eternal life, we're always connected to, you know, limitedness. We can do everything we want to do. But here, in this time space, in this matrix, I feel like there is a small limitation.
Yeah. It's like limitation is a part of the system. You agree on that kind of limitation?
Yes, because it's not an organic system.
Yeah. Maybe if you were limitless, you wouldn't even be here. You couldn't stay here.
Yeah, because that's right. Because that's tied to the Thara template that's somewhat distorted, right? Because it went through distorted grids to manifest here. Because of it's all to do with that Metatronic encoding. So it's not our organic system to thrive in. We're doing our best to thrive and be purposeful and evolve and help others evolve. But there's, you know, we can write our own life, we can co-create, but there is a small percentage of that keeps us limited to how much we can do. Even karma, I've learned that even karma is a movable thing. It can change. You can change it because it's not actually a force of punishment. It is a natural result of misaligned masculine and feminine energies. The karma might be understood as like an energetic imprint of our decisions influencing the trajectory of our experiences, not through like rigid predestination, but through resonance we create. Through resonance we create. Yes, through, like, you can call that set of decisions and decisions and choices we make that's not within a linear timeline that I talked about before. I can give an example, like if we're presented with a choice like to hit someone back or send them love and walk away, what do we choose in our thoughts? So that becomes the karma you will receive the next minute. And that can change. 1 minute you could want, you may be wanting to hit somebody, but then have a change of heart and decide, okay, no, I don't want to deal with that karma and I don't want to hurt somebody, so I will walk away.
It's not going to be really easy. But no. I see karma as like a paper fold. If there's like something folded in you for centuries, and you just need to, each time you just need to smoothen, like make it a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna take time. It may hurt. It may not work. It may work one time and then it's just gonna fold again. So it's like a process. It's not someone you can just expect it to work first time. It's not going to be really easy.
Yeah, and you may have to commit that error or misjudgment so that next time you won't do it. But I think the heavy karma comes from repeatedly doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that becomes harder and harder. The lesson becomes harsher and harsher because the invitation's getting more and more pronounced. First of all, it was a whisper. Next time, it's going to be a gentle knock on the door. Third time, it may be an invasion. Someone knocks the door down, is like, didn't you hear the first? Didn't you learn the twice before, you know? Karma's tied to unhealed feminine and masculine energy as well. Like, for example, if someone exhibits excessive love to control others, then really what it is, in my line of work, I do that as well, is help people, I guess, work things out, you know, where imbalances, blocks and things like that, or karmas. But it becomes a karma if we don't heal it. But what it is, it's wounded masculine energy. So if someone's like excessively controlling, it's a wounded masculine energy. So if they leave it unaddressed, then there becomes an imbalance, a serious imbalance that would manifest in the physical. So it could manifest as stiffness, pain in the body, joints, joint problems, lower back pain, that sort of thing. And so that becomes their karma, right? Because they didn't address the origin of the wound or the problem. So it becomes like a karmic thing, a karmic
energy.
Yes, stuck energy. So they're directly related to unresolved wounds that spill into our life, our karma, our interactions, and we start to bleed onto others what we didn't heal within us. So, and then it becomes miasmic, affecting our bioenergetic field, and then the universe and our life will start to reflect back these imbalances. And we attract people to show us where the wounds are and what they are and the nature of them. So it could be a narcissist who mirrors these unhealed aspects within us. So then it becomes an experiential exchange between ourselves and the narcissist. Sometimes we like to call ourselves empaths, and we attract a narcissist, but we forget that we could have a karmic imprint too, something that we haven't addressed that needs to be addressed. Maybe we don't have boundaries. Maybe we have done something in another incarnation that needs to be looked at. It's unfortunate. It's harsh. It's not something that, you know, I'd love for anyone to have an experience with a narcissist. It's like you completely lose yourself, like detach from yourself completely. So, you know, like a feeling of a deep loss. But that deep loss doesn't have to be looked at as a loss. It could be looked at as something that will force us to confront our own inner truths. And either way, whatever happens, I think we have the ultimate decision to choose how to move forward with these experiences. So, you know, while fulfilling our purpose, we are always fine-tuning and recalibrating these energies that shape our experience. So examine your frequency. So when I'm doing healings, I always ask people, what is your frequency? What do you think of most of the day? And I get them to write it down and then see what their frequency is. And that will answer the question as to what they're attracting in their life, because it comes from that inner view of the self. And so when we become entangled in these experiences and see ourselves as victims rather than creators, then we become entangled in the wheel of time, the wheel of karma, mistaking lessons for burdens, forgetting that karma exists simply because we take things personally, and we should just like learn from it. I know it's not easy, but it's kind of what we need to do to be liberated. So karma could be seen as an opportunity, as a process of like self-reflection and alignment, or as something that we can just hold on to as an act of revenge or something that doesn't align with our spirit. or with other people, because what's the point taking revenge? It's just going to hurt the other person. Are they going to learn from being hurt more? Not likely. Mm-hmm. So I see karma as a realignment back with the spirit and essence of source. So self-healing is very, very important. A responsibility.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing. I think we're here to heal. We're here to heal ourselves and each other.
Yeah. And it's not about surrendering your power or placing your fate or yourself in someone else's hands. It's about nurturing your relationship with yourself. Not just knowing myself, but nurturing that and refining and retuning, recalibrating. And how do you do that? You learn to listen to your body, recognizing that it is, your body is an intelligent system, so well designed. Even running on Metatronic codes, it's still intelligent. We can't hate our bodies just because they're in an inorganic, setup. But it's not ideal, but it is what it is, and we're trying to evolve out of this. So people think that they have good karma if they penalize the body and suppress and disregard and things like that. But I don't agree with that, because I subscribe to practices that nurture relationship with the body, right? Somatic techniques and inner child healing and loving the body, loving the sensuality, connecting with the self, understanding the nervous system, understanding thyself as a multi-dimensional being, and, nurturing yourself with food, with good things. We deserve the best because we are emanations of source. So most people treat the body like a trash can and put all sorts of stuff in it and outdated beliefs, and they refuse to move on. And then they want good karma and they want all the good things happening. It doesn't work like this, because then you become in the hands of parasitic forces and energy vampires that try to show you a distorted view of life instead the true view and how things are in original intention. I think
that was really a rich discussion, actually, especially what you just said, because it makes someone reflect on what should I think about when I think of myself? What do I need? And it's just thinking about things that really matter. These days, especially, many things don't matter and people are just focused on them.
Well, people are disconnected from their own innate wisdom.
Yeah.
So we can't disregard the innate wisdom, because that misaligns us. And then we become aligned with things that aren't good for us. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I just want to say, don't run away from experiences, whether they're painful or not. And embrace everything. And if something that doesn't serve you, you can transmute it. That's where true healing begins. And know that you have the power to co-create your own life. First, we have to embody. Well, first we have to confront the darkness, integrate it. Yeah, because true healing starts within, so it requires facing what is within first. A lot of people look out to the world trying to solve problems in the world, forgetting that the true issue is from within.
Yeah.
And even worse, when you suggest healing, they become offended. They prefer to see themselves as clear, untouched by any wounds.
Already healed.
Yeah, already healed. But no one is, because we wouldn't be here. So the truth is, none of us are without energy blocks.
Otherwise we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and don't think that it's just like if someone asks for healing, it doesn't have to be directly from them. It's tied to ancestors and comes down the line of ancestors and family and things that we carry from across lifetimes. So we all hold those deep wounds. I know we hold the wound of the ancient orphans and the guilt, and not to mention the seals and, you know, so many energetic residues that we carry still that we have to heal from because it's our responsibility. Some see it as like, well, I'm not a slave to come and clean up and, you know. But then what's the alternative to that is to go down the path of destruction, basically, self-destruction. And we're supported, we're fully supported. We have the genetic codes within our DNA, and yes, we have a collective karma. But if you do work on your own karma, you reflect in your collective karma. So you're helping everyone, helping yourself. And yeah, you're
helping the planet and everything on the planet too.
Yeah, and the body is so flexible and adaptive to everything. And because it's so attuned to every situation, but we cut off from the body and we follow the mind. We follow the left mind, which is the logical mind. We're not taught how to think outside of the box. Then you add to that traumas and voices of external false authorities and cultural and social conditioning, religious conditioning, then you're left with a disempowered being that has no choice but to believe in fate and destiny.
Yeah.
Because your willpower has been taken away. But you can restore that. You can heal from that. And true healing comes from reclaiming our individual sovereignty over our own bodies, first and foremost. So that's the main thing, is reclaim your body. Because the way to do that is to restore its natural rhythm, learn to trust your innate wisdom encoded within your DNA, and learn to connect to the spirit within you that needs to be taking leadership in life and not just make intellectual decisions. So that ability to connect with the body is an intelligent energy connected to source, to creator. And to find that, come into the still point where there's no action or inaction, just be. You don't have to do much, you just have to be there. And take a deep breath, and you'll find that life starts to happen for you the way you want it to happen. You know, beyond distortion, beyond suffering. You don't always have to be a doer, you know. So that's my final message.
That's really a rich discussion that you have shared with us. As always, I'm very happy to join you in these discussions. Thank you so much, Heba.
Thank you. See you next time.
See you.